Hi, my name is Fionn and I'm here to give you a little demo, a little product demo and introduction to TutorCruncher, tutoring management software, and just give you a little day-to-day run-through of everything all the features that we offer and everything that you can access on the site. So all of our features are available to customers on any price plan. And yeah, without further ado, this is just going to be a generic run through. Obviously details will vary a little bit from person to person, but this is just kind of a generic run through to get us all started. So to start off, first thing that you would see when you sign in for a trial account is going to be this dashboard screen. Now I am viewing what we at TutorCruncher call a demo branch, which you'll be able to see up here in the top left saying viewing demo data. And what this means is just that it is a TutorCruncher account which is loaded with some sample information for you to understand how all of our systems work and get you used to the software itself. If you want to switch over to your company account, like I have Fionn's proper company up here, you will have your official company account. And you can switch branch just by going to the top right and clicking what will probably be your initials and selecting from the drop down menu your company account, or pressing switch to live up here. If at any date in the future you decide to add branches to your account, like I have added a franchisee here, then they will also appear under this drop down menu. It is also the case that we are viewing this dashboard, this first screen when we log in, as an admin on TutorCruncher. But if you would like to see what your software looks like through the eyes of a tutor, of a client, a student, or anything else, you can also access that on this drop-down menu under Change Role, and you can change your role to administrator, tutor, client, student, etc. Now, to speak about the dashboard generally, we have this dashboard fully customizable, so you can add whatever you want to see here. By default, when you first log in, you will be seeing your revenue as it's graphed out over a week, a month, a year, how it plots over time, net versus gross, and insights into new clients, tutors, hours, and jobs. We also have this activity feed here, which logs all of the actions taken on the platform and associates them with individual users. So if a client were to save their card details with you, or if a client were to cancel a lesson, all of those actions would be stored here on your activity feed, and we can view an exhaustive list of all those actions further throughout the platform. For the time being, let's start off with a look at tutor onboarding. So this is our general tutor list view. If we want to have a look at tutor applications that have been made to us, we can go into the Pending Tutors tab. Now, if a tutor has made an offline application to you, you might want to add them in here yourself by clicking Create New Tutor up at the top. In the more common situation that a tutor has applied online, their profile will pop up here in Pending automatically. Now, to show you how a tutor applies online, I'm going to access a site called Dino Tutors. Dino Tutors is an example website that TutorCruncher has set up just to show you how some of our website integrations work. So we have a lot of website integrations. If you wanted to get started with us right out of the bat, one of the first things you might do would be to install a little Become a Tutor link on your public website. So if we see what that does here, this gives your prospective tutors who are looking at your website a chance to sign up and create their own account on your TutorCruncher instance. So here we have first name, last name. The tutor creates their account here and is sent a confirmation email. After they confirm their email, they're asked to sign in and enter in their contact details. So we'll take Graham Watson here as an example. You'll see Graham has filled in his basic information. He has a bio, teaching experience. He has added in all his teaching skills, the level to which he can teach them. His qualifications, institutions can be added there also, as well as CV and resume, or any other documents that he might want to upload to the system. So after reviewing Graham's profile, you can have a look, and if you like what you see, you can invite him for an interview. There's a standard email definition that goes on behind this, but you can also add a little personalized message as you see here, So you could maybe specify the time and date that you'd like to have the interview, or the location that's going to take place, maybe the web chat room address, that kind of thing. Similarly, if there's any information that we're not currently collecting here that you would like to know about your tutors, so one of the popular options would be a police background check. If you want to collect more specific information about, say, a police background check, you can also set that up in custom fields and ask the tutors to fill in that information when they're making their initial application. It's important to note as well that when Graham is as a status pending tutor, he has very limited access to the system and can really only control his application and does not have access to jobs, lessons, or any other internal operations that you would only want to assign to tutors who you approve of. So let's say you have had the interview with Graham and you want to approve him and move forward with him as one of the tutors that you work with. You would just set his status here to being approved. And once he is approved, he will show up on your list of approved tutors and he's ready to be matched with clients and set up on lessons and everything else. So that is tutor onboarding in a nutshell. If we were to jump to client onboarding, to create a client initially, if there's an offline application, in a similar process we can create a new client here and fill in their details. If we were to put in an email address for this client, we may be asked if we want to send them a welcome email, and they would, depending on the status that we put here, prospect or live or even dormant, go into a different status on our among our other clients. If the client is applying online, there are a couple of different ways that we can do that. So just as we have a Become a Tutor link on our website, we can direct people to a client sign-up page. However, if you want something that's a little bit more integrated and it's a little bit slicker, we also have the Contact Us or inquiry form. This is done using something called a TutorCruncher socket. So the socket is like a plugin. It's a few lines of code that you can stick into the HTML on your website, and it will automatically load up a series of fields for your clients to make an inquiry that is integrated with TutorCruncher. So you can specify what all these fields are going to be. You can change their names and you can add extra fields here. So we have all the standards fields as you see in front of you. We have name, email, phone number, student name, and further details. Similarly, if we have a function whereby if they specify the time and date that they'd like to have, be it a free trial lesson or a induction, a screening, or even just their first class, a job will be created for that date at that time for that client, and then all you would have to do as an admin would be go in and find a tutor for them to be matched with. Similarly, just like we have a How Did You Hear About Us drop down, you could either instead of or in addition to this have a what package would you like to be enrolled onto, and maybe you want to enroll people onto a 15-hour per month package or a 25-hour per month package. They could also select that information here. So one way or the other, prospective clients may be created through your website or created manually by you, and they would pop into what we call the prospect pipeline here. So the prospect pipeline is just a general sales pipeline. You get to specify how many stages are in this pipeline, what those stages are called, and how they look. A new client, such as Jake McDonald here, will always go into the first stage of the pipeline. So you can see by the tag associated with Jake that he has submitted an inquiry 1 week and 6 days ago. So if we've been in contact with Jake and we're happy that he's moving along our prospect pipeline, we can simply drag and drop him across the different stages. And if we're happy that Jake is signed up to us and will be continuing with us as a client, we can simply drag and drop him there over won, or drag and drop him there over lost. Now, if we want to have a look at what Jake's account looks like, again, similar to Tutor Profiles, he has all his basic information here. He has his payment details saved through Stripe, as this is a Stripe supported country. Similarly, if you are in one of our many countries supported by a direct debit solution, a client could also save their direct debit information here. We have a balance history, we have the jobs or courses that this client is enrolled into, and also we have their students. So generally speaking, in TutorCruncher, when we speak about clients and students, we're generally speaking about parents and children. But we appreciate that in some business models, such as language learning, maybe for university students or older, the clients might be enrolled in the classes themselves and the students might be paying for their own classes. In which case, we have a little button up here at the top of the client profile that says Add as Student. And Add as Student means that the client plays both roles essentially and is the one enrolled in the class themselves. To jump now to administrators, there is no limit to the amount of administrators you can have active on your TutorCruncher account on any branch or on the agency as a whole. If you want to create a new administrator account, you just come in there to create new administrator, enter their name and email address, and they can receive a welcome email just as a client or tutor would. If we want to edit an existing administrator, we can come in here and we can also set what emails they're going to receive. So maybe they want to be notified about updates to client subscriptions, or maybe they want to be notified about auto charges and whether they were successful or not. And we can also specify what this administrator's permissions are going to be. So perhaps if this is a new member of staff, we don't want them to maybe view or edit accounting information, and maybe they'll just be looking after the operational side of things. Similarly, we can increase their permissions on a rolling basis as appropriate. Now, one last piece on this CRM aspect of TutorCruncher is our user map. So all of the users within TutorCruncher, they are geocoded based on the address information on their profile. So you'll see here we have tutors listed in red, clients listed in green, and we can zoom in and have a look at these. If we want to specify an address and a radius in miles or kilometers from that address, perhaps if we're doing face-to-face tutoring and if we have a student, we want to get a visual distribution of the tutors that are located around them, we can do that here as well. Now, that's pretty much everything with the CRM side of TutorCruncher. If we were to come here to the organizational side, we organize everything in TutorCruncher through the medium of what we call jobs. A job is like a course. So that basically is the thing that matches up clients with individual tutors and students with individual tutors, and is usually used as the medium through which all lessons then individually take place. So if you have two people working together, you might want to associate them on a job. Or if you have a tutor who is teaching a group class, you can set that tutor up on a job and then clients can apply to be part of their group class. Now, to take you through the setup of a job, if we were to create a new job up here, we could specify a job name. So say this is English to SAT level, and maybe this is taught by Joe Blogs, and Joe is going to teach this at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. We could also, in the description field here, specify any of the curriculum details, and we could also set what the default charge rate is going to be for any clients who attend, and the default pay rates for tutors. Now you'll see here in this job name I have started with the information of Joe Blogs being a tutor, but equally Joe Blogs could be a client who is looking for English SAT level assistance, and he's looking for it at 6 p.m. on Saturdays, so this can work both ways around. Joe could be a client or a tutor here. Really, both ways are perfectly acceptable. Similarly, if we go into more settings here, there's a lot that we can do. So we'll touch on a few of these, kind of the more common usages here. So the default student premium, this would be used generally where group classes are at least an option. And this is to incentivize your tutors to teach more group classes. So the way we do that is that, say you have a default tutor pay rate here of $20 and a client charge rate of $30. Now the default student premium would mean that for every extra client who takes part in that class, we might add an extra $5 per hour to the tutor's pay. This is to incentivize tutors teaching group classes, which may be more stressful or less desirable, but would be more lucrative for you as an agency, and just encouraging them to take them as opposed to one-on-one classes. Similarly, we can cap the number of lessons that take place in a given job, and we can also add an added fee per lesson. So that would mean that regardless of how long the lesson was, maybe we want clients to pay a set price for every lesson that they take part in. So perhaps it's to cover travel expenses for the tutor or any other reason. Tutor permissions here specify what the tutor is allowed to do within the system. So the most permissive level, and probably the most common, would be to have it so that tutors can add and edit lessons and change the job status to finished. But we can have any level here right down to the fact that tutors can only mark lessons as complete, and marking lessons as complete is kind of TutorCruncher's way of logging hours. So you can limit them to just logging their hours if you like, or you can give them a little bit more freedom. The last thing I will touch on in this little panel here is max students. So again, more relevant for group classes. If you want to, say, make this job public, by which we mean you would allow clients to book themselves into it, you can say the maximum number of students that we're going to allow in this lesson is 10, or any number you like. What that will do is it will prevent the 11th student from booking into it, or any student from booking into it after 10. Similarly, just as we spoke about with tutors, if you have any extra fields that you want to collect information on, you can add them in here. There are many different stages throughout TutorCruncher where you can create custom or extra fields to collect information that you wouldn't normally have access to given our default settings. Accounting settings we can speak about more in detail when we are talking about invoicing, and these can all be controlled on a global basis further in settings. But to walk through them briefly, if you are using sales codes for an accounting software like Xero or QuickBooks, you can specify them here. You can create them in settings and specify which ones are relevant here. Tax settings, whether you enter gross or net values, and whether tax is added onto the amount or taken away from the amount that you set within TutorCruncher. And then we have settings for commission tax, like a sales tax, or tutor tax. Auto invoice here is also an important one. So if you want to charge clients automatically, send out an invoice automatically whenever this lesson is logged, you can choose to have that go out. That will mean that whenever a tutor comes in and logs their session after it's been completed, the user, your client, can get an invoice automatically sent out to them for that lesson that's just taken place. And again, of course, all of those details are available to adjust on a global setting in your branch settings. This is just specific to each individual job, so if you want to change it on a job-by-job basis, you can do so. So this is our general job. This is what it will look like straight after you create it, but obviously we want to associate this with clients and tutors, so let's get started on that. So let's say one possible arrangement here is that, and it's probably the most common one, let's say you have a particular student in mind when you're creating this job. So let's say Joe Bloggs is either the client or their child, and you want to create it for them. So I'm just going to use as an example, say we take Archie Hoskins here. So this job has been created for Archie Hoskins and his father Jamie. What we want to do now is find a tutor that can teach it. So the first thing that might be relevant is if we set a skill set for tutors who want to teach this job. So we go into here, skill set on the job screen. We choose whether the skill that we are now setting is going to be just preferred or strictly required, and the level to which we want to set it. So perhaps you can amend all of these teaching levels, of course, yourself within settings. For the time being, we'll just take some of our default ones and we'll say it's to a GCSE level. The subject category is just kind of a broad definition of subject, and then you can further specify that within subject itself, and again, all of these different fields fully editable. So what we've just done here is we've set for this job in particular and said that English language to a GCSE level is a required skill for this job. So let's save this. Now that we have that information, we can send notifications to our tutors depending on what level of skills they have. So you see if they have all of the required skills. I don't have any tutors currently who match those requirements. But you can thin the herd based on what skill level they actually have. In order to activate this location filter, this is more for face-to-face tutoring, you can set a default location here. You will always have the option to add a student's or tutor's location, which means their address as it's saved within TutorCruncher. Similarly, like I have done here, you can also add any default locations you'd like to. So if you are running, say, a tutoring center, you might want to set up the different rooms that your tutoring center facilitates. And if you are maybe working out of something like a local library, you can also set that up here like I have done, and anything else that you want to set up. So let's take the student's location for the time being and save that. And now when we go out to send notifications to our tutors, we have this location filter, currently set in miles, but as I said, can handle kilometers also, and that will thin the herd a little bit for the tutors who receive these notifications based on whatever the filter is set to. Similarly, we also have labels here that are fully customizable. You can set up whatever labels on your tutors you like. Maybe they attended particularly prestigious universities, or maybe they're your VIP staff or something like that. Maybe they're recent sign-ups, that kind of thing. So once we're happy with the tutors who are on the list here getting an email asking them to apply to this job, we can click the Send Notifications button. They will all receive that email asking them to apply, and once they have done so, their applications will pop up here under Job Applications. And each application will have listed beside it a little green Accept button or a little red Reject button. If you choose to accept their application, they can be added straight to the job, and then your work as an administrator setting up this job should be pretty much over. So that's how you would use that application function. Obviously, if you reject any of these, you can reject them. And whether you accept or reject an application, the tutor can and will receive a feedback email. So let's say that you don't want to use this application system. The tutors, the panel that you have here has a little blue plus sign beside it. So if you know what tutor you want to work on this, you can add the little blue plus sign and just choose from your list of available tutors or type their name in here. And that will just add them directly to the job without needing you to go through an application process. Now, for most TutorCruncher companies, this is where the admin's responsibilities will generally end. So, provided the tutor has full permissions, as they do here, the tutor will be able to come in and schedule individual lessons. But let's say if you're taking a more admin heavy workload approach, the admin could come in here just as the tutor can and schedule the first lesson. So we said these lessons were going to take place at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. So we can schedule our first lesson for 6 p.m. this coming Saturday. And let's say it's going to be an hour. That's the default. We can obviously change that if we need to as well by changing the finish time. And the topic, let's say, is going to be chapter 1, or it's going to be Macbeth, maybe. Let's schedule this future lesson. Great. So now we have a lesson scheduled for Saturday at 6 p.m. and that's one lesson, so that's a good start. But maybe we as the admin, or Peter as the tutor, want this to take place on a weekly basis, weekly rolling basis every Saturday. What we can do in that case is repeat this on a weekly basis every 1 week, and we can stop this on a particular date or after a particular number of lessons have taken place. So maybe we want to stop it after 12 lessons have already taken place. And save that. So what this has done is it has forecasted out to the future. Those 12 lessons have all been scheduled now. So if we go back to our job, we will see that there's a number of lessons in here that have now been scheduled. So now, let's say it worked the other way around. In this situation, we had a job being set up on behalf of Archie Hoskins. He was the student who came in and required services. But let's say it's working the other way around. Let's say we don't have a student yet, but we do currently have a tutor. And the tutor, Peter in this instance, has come to us and said, I can teach at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. How about you help me find some clients? That's no problem at all either. So you'll see that we have all of these lessons scheduled. That's absolutely fine. That's the same in either case. What you would do now is come to set the label to be public job. If you set the label for this to be public job, it will mean that your clients can come onto TutorCruncher itself and they can enroll either themselves or their child into these lessons. And this will be more common with group classes. This is where max students and things come in, so it won't let any of your clients enroll into this if the lessons are full, but it will give them the option, if there are spaces available, to enroll themselves into it. Now they will be able to do that through their logins on the TutorCruncher platform. Perhaps you would want them to do that on your own website though, and maybe you don't want them to have to log into TutorCruncher to see what lessons are available as clients who are looking to book into a lesson. So if that's the case, we're going back to Dino Tutors here, and I'm just going to show you another example of one of our integrations. So you will see here, this is our appointment booking example, and this is just an example integration of what your client might see if they went onto your website and they wanted to book themselves into some lessons. So let's take, there's homework help going on Monday, and Martha S is teaching it. And we can add as many different fields here as we want to. We can provide a lot more of information, and we can style this however we want to style it. But you'll be able to see here, there are 10 spaces available in the general class. It's taught by Martha S. Availability is just a little custom field that we have set up here, so that can represent whatever you want it to represent. And if I like the look of that as a client coming onto your website, I can just book myself into the lesson. And that will ask me to either sign in or create an account when I do so. But it's just a way of bringing those lessons into the public eye without asking people to sign up for a TutorCruncher account first. While on the topic of website integrations, we also have the ability to list your tutors publicly. So if I was a prospective client coming onto your website, I might go to a page or see on your website, on your homepage, the list of tutors that you work for. Maybe you want to display that information for me. And as a prospective customer, I could come in and say search for a particular subject. Maybe it's maths, maybe it's SAT, maybe it's something else. And I could have a look at the different tutors. I could read through their bios. And also, if you want to display this information, a customer could look through the aggregate star rating against each tutor and the number of lesson hours that they've taught. So let's say I'm looking for a math tutor. And Martha S looks good to me. She has a little bit of a description about herself here. She maybe puts in an hourly rate and the skills that she has. You can fully customize this as well. So there's lots that you can include here if you want to. And I submit against Martha S, and I'm asked to fill out an inquiry form again. So the way that this inquiry form is different to the one down below is that it still has all similar information. Again, you can specify what information is shown here, but take for example that preferred free trial lesson that we had below. So this is the time and date that the client would like to have that maybe first lesson or induction or screening. When the client specifies that here, not only does it create a job, as we saw in jobs, for that time at that date, but what it also does is attach Martha S here as a pending tutor. And all that you would have to do then as an admin is to go in and approve Martha S working with that client. There is no direct contact on your website between clients and tutors, at least initially. We prevent that from happening just so your clients and tutors, you have an integrity and control over that process. But once you approve it to go ahead, they can be set up on classes with each other through the medium of jobs, as we've discussed here. So let's say we are back on this job and maybe Arthur Hoskins is back in the fold here, and we're Peter Johnson. We're coming in on the 22nd of June, and let's say this lesson has already taken place. So as Peter, I'm coming in after the lesson to mark it as complete, to log my hours essentially. So I click the Mark Complete button up here to ask me if I'm sure, and I say yes. Now this is what we call a lesson report or a client report. The standard field here that you're going to see when you start this initially is just this text box for client report, but again, like every other part of the TutorCruncher system, it's very customizable. So if you want to add in custom fields like I have done here for responsiveness, I've added a little like stars out of 10. We have, you know, a number of different ways you can collect information, and you can add in as many fields as you want here and be very specific about it. Similarly, as you see currently, I am giving tutors the option to skip this report, but if you want to do so, it's an easy thing to make this report mandatory, in which case they would have to fill out a report in order to log a lesson. So let's skip this for the time being. And now that lesson has been recorded as complete, and it is ready to be invoiced for and paid it, and we are ready to pay out to the tutor, perhaps then after that. So on the topic of reports, a report, had we just filed it, they would all be stored here. So these reports can be sent out instantly after the lesson, as soon as they're written. They can either instead of or in addition to that be sent out as a PDF attachment to the next invoice that's sent to the client, or they can be not sent out at all. Similarly, the client can be given access to them on their TutorCruncher login, or you can deny access to that. We also have an extra functionality here whereby an admin can act as a report approver, so that the admin would have to look over and approve of a report before it was made accessible to the clients. To jump here to the calendar, the day-to-day calendar, this covers obviously all of the lessons that are taking place in your business on a day-to-day basis. We can filter this and color it by whatever we want to, whatever is relevant. Obviously we have a lot of filters here on the right hand side, and we can view this on a month view, a day view, list, or week. Similarly, this is available through an iCal feed, so any admin, any client, any tutor or student can get this on an iCal feed, which means that they could access all this information on an constantly updated basis on their Google calendars, their Apple calendars, their Outlook calendars, all that kind of stuff. So that is the overall calendar. If we want to look specifically at tutor availability, we can also look at that. So tutors can come into TutorCruncher and they can set what their availability is going to be. And these classes here are appearing in red. If I were to set availability for an individual tutor, it would just show up here in a different color, and I would know as an administrator, maybe I'm scheduling a lesson or an induction or screening. I'll just have a bird's eye visual of what tutor is available when. Tasks, just briefly, are a kind of to-do list function for administrators, so they can be associated with users, with jobs or lessons or anything like that. And after the due date that has been set when these jobs are created, there will be an email prompt that goes out to the administrator responsible, just letting them know that they need to look after this task, that it's gone after the due date that it was supposed to be completed by. So you will see in this case, I am responsible for sending an email, a check back email, to Jake McDonald, and I'm supposed to do that by the 23rd of April. So once I've done so, I can just come in here and mark it as complete, and then it will pop up in my list of complete tabs. So that is pretty much everything in terms of the scheduling side of things. The last thing to cover is these client reviews. So we mentioned them very briefly when we were looking on our DynoTutors website at the tutor list view, because we got an aggregate star rating of each of the tutors, and you might have been wondering at that time, well, where does that come from? So after a set number of lesson hours have taken place, or after a job has been completed, we can automatically send a review email to the client, which asks them to provide information and just review the tutor that they've been working with. So you will see here the review by default again just has a star rating and some text details, but again custom fields here so you can add whatever extra information you want to add. And those star ratings are going to be aggregated against a tutor's profile. So tutors won't have access to this information, but as an admin you will, and you will get to see who are your 5-star tutors, who are your 2-star tutors, and everything in between. And similarly, as we said before, can be pulled through onto your website if you want to give clients access to that information. Now the last bit here is accounting information. So accounting is taking payment from your clients and paying out to your tutors, all rolled up in one. There are obviously a number of different ways that we allow you to take payment from your clients, and we are going to go through pretty much all of the main options, all the most popular options for taking payment first. The most popular one for a lot of our companies is to use Invoices for that. So when we talk about Invoices, we are talking about billing in arrears, that is billing after a lesson has taken place. In order to send out invoices for lessons that have already taken place, you will need to come to Accounting and Draft Invoices and press the Regenerate button at the top of the screen. Now this date range that you set here will specify the limits for which tutor will look through the times between those dates, and will check for any completed lessons that have not already been paid for by the client. These completed lessons that haven't yet been paid for will be put together on invoices and itemized accordingly for you to see and for your client to see. One other thing to pay attention to is that when you are regenerating invoices, you will be regenerating payments to the tutor, or payment orders as we call them, and this box here is quite relevant as well. So this specifies whether or not you want to generate payment orders including items not associated with a paid invoice. And what this means is that if this box is unticked, then payment orders will not be generated for any lessons that the client has not yet paid for. So if you don't want to pay out to your tutors before you receive payment from your clients, you leave this box unticked. If you want to pay out to your tutors, regardless of whether a client is paid or not, you can tick this box and then regenerate your invoices and payment orders. Now if we click the regenerate button down here, it will populate a list of invoices like we have on our screen here, and these are ranked by value, and these are the client names associated beside them as well. So you will see a number of these have a tag on them, a little blue tag called auto charge. Now auto charge means that this client has payment details saved to their account, and that they are going to be automatically charged after a set number of days that you specify, and the money is just going to be taken off that account. So this will only be the case when they have payment details saved, either card details saved through Stripe or direct debit, be that through Go Cardless or through a combination of Stripe and Plaid, depending on your geography. So if we want to click into one of these draft invoices, let's take Melissa Spencer. You see she has a number of lessons that we see itemized. This is the admin view of what's included on the invoice. If we want to see a draft of what Melissa is going to be sent as a PDF, we can view the PDF up here as well. So this is an example of one of TutorCruncher's PDF invoices. As you can see here, this is still in draft stage, but it includes the total amount due for payment along with an itemization of all the items on that invoice. Now this is just our default. If you want to edit how this looks, there are a number of different ways you can do that. The most extensive of which would be just to change the entire HTML layout of this invoice. So you can go to Settings, HTML Templates, and completely amend the template for these invoices to make them look more similar to what you've been using. Other than that, you're very welcome to use the default that we've drawn up, and of course all of your information, so your branch address, your client's address and details will all be pulled through automatically. So if this looks good to us, if we feel that Melissa Spencer should be paying the amount that we are asking her to pay, we can choose to confirm this invoice from this screen, or we can confirm them one by one from the general view, or we can confirm them all at the same time. So once these invoices have been confirmed, they haven't been sent out yet. This is just this draft invoices page is just your kind of staging area. So drafts initially will pop up, you can review them, and when you're happy that they go out, you can move them to confirmed, and then finally, when you're happy that they be sent to the client, you can click Raise Confirmed Invoices up here, and you'll be shown a list of the invoices that are going to be sent out. Now, if it's the case that the client has been saved to TutorCruncher, but has not been saved with an email, you will be notified here as well, just letting you know that this client will not receive an email. You will also get the same message if you have turned off the automated email which would send invoices to these clients. So once we click Send Out there, all of these invoices are going to pop up in raised invoices, again here under Accounting. Now if they have been set to auto charge, using those save payment methods that I mentioned a moment ago, their status when they first come in here will say pending. Now pending just means that it is between the time at which you sent the invoice and the time at which you're going to automatically take payment. So the client is going to receive an email which says something along the lines of, we are charging you, say $2,000 for the items listed. Payment will be automatically taken off your card for $2,000 unless you have an issue, in which case you can raise it with us, and that deferred payment can be cancelled. If they do not cancel that deferred payment, that payment will come off their card or bank account, and the status of the invoice will then change automatically to being paid. In the case that the client is not being auto-charged, or not being, auto-charged, they will initially go in here as unpaid, and if they do not currently have card details saved, you can select Pay by Card here on the right and use a new card. Or if they do have card details saved, you can just use an existing card that's associated with their account. Similarly, if someone is paying you by bank transfer or check or cash, if you could come into one of these unpaid invoices as well and select Take Manual Payment, you can then select the payment method that the client chose. And you can choose to send a receipt out on the back of that as well. Similarly, if there are any mistakes with any of these invoices that are sent out, you may want to void them. If you void an invoice, or to void an invoice, all you would need to do is to come into the invoice itself and click Issue Credit Note up on the top of the screen. Once that has done, the TutorCruncher system forgets essentially the fact that it has been billed for, except that it maintains that voided record. And when you next regenerate your draft invoices, those lessons will pop back up ready to be sent out. So a standard situation is that perhaps an invoice has been sent out, and one of the lessons, the charge was too high on it, it was supposed to be free, or it wasn't supposed to be charged for at all. If that's the case, you can issue a credit note, navigate to that lesson itself, edit the details of the lesson or delete it as appropriate, and regenerate your draft invoices. When you do so, a new invoice will be drafted for, say, Ella Clark in this situation, and it will include all the charges that she is due to pay, except for the one that has now been updated and edited, and you can send out a new invoice with the correct information. So that is invoices, or payment in arrears. If we want to have a look at prepayment, we are going to be looking at what TutorCruncher calls credit requests. A credit request is just like a request for prepayment. So there are a number of different ways that you can have these sent out to your customers, just as there are a number of different ways you might want them to be paying in advance. First of all, if you want your clients to pay for upcoming lessons, just the upcoming lessons that they have planned on a usage basis, just like draft invoices, you can come in here and regenerate. Now you'll notice in this case, the date range that's being set is actually automatically set to 1 month in the future. So what this means is that for any client who has planned lessons that are going to be coming up in the next month, all of those planned lessons will be added onto a credit request for each one of those clients, and the client will be asked to foot the bill for those lessons in advance. So if we take Jamie Hoskins here, we see that Jamie has a number of lessons that are scheduled, and we are asking him to make payment for each one of them to a total of $1,184. Again, like invoices, you can confirm any one of these or all of them, and once they're in confirmed credit requests, they can be sent out using Raise Confirmed Credit Requests, and they will appear here in your Raise Credit Requests tab. Similarly, these can be auto-charged, and payment can be taken from them automatically. Otherwise, payment can be selected manually, or you can take a manual card payment. Once that payment has been taken, say, again, using Jamie as an example, say Jamie takes payment for that $800, or makes payment for that $800. That credit request is now marked as having been paid, and that means that that $800 has gone onto Jamie's client account as positive credit. And for every lesson that Jamie or Jamie's child takes part in after that date, his balance will reduce accordingly. So if a lesson is going to cost Jamie $100, every time a lesson is taken, his credit will decrease by $100. Now that is if you want to bill based on usage, but perhaps you have specific packages and you will only bill based on the value of those packages. So say if you have a 25-hour package that you sell and you want people to buy into that, and that covers them for a term or an unspecified period of time until they run out of credit on their account. If that's the case, it's a very easy thing to create. So if a client submits an inquiry and that they say that they want to be on a certain package, let's say this 8-hour package that we've set up, or a 5-hour package, you can set it up here. So what you would do is come again to Draft Credit Requests, you would click Create up on the top of this screen, and you would select whatever package that you've set up. Now these packages can be obviously customized by you in your settings, and you can specify what the default amount and the default description is going to be for this. So let's say we had an inquiry again from our friend Jamie Hoskins. Jamie Hoskin submitted an inquiry. On that inquiry form, he selected that he was interested in the 5-hour package. So you have just selected 5-hour package, you've selected his name, and you want to send that out to him immediately. So you can save that. And now, because Jamie is set to be auto-charged, because he has his payment information saved, the status of this credit request is down as pending. And that money, once that credit request has been paid, again, that $500 will go onto his account as positive credit. Now, when Jamie has taken a number of classes, perhaps his credit is running a bit low, we can set up a low balance notification for Jamie on his account and for the admin who is managing his account. So perhaps you specify that you want any client whose balance drops below $100 to receive a notification letting them know that they have gone into low balance. That means that after Jamie takes his fourth $100 class, he will receive an email letting him know that his credit has dropped below an acceptable level or an appropriate level, and he will be asked to top up again. Similarly, we have another setting on TutorCruncher which would allow you to prevent negative balances. And what that means is that Jamie, if he took $500 classes and wanted to take another one, he would not be allowed to do so until he had added extra credit onto his account. And either you could send him out a credit request like we have done here, or he could log on to TutorCruncher and click a button up at the top of his screen for top up his account by an unspecified amount, and he could type in whatever amount he wanted, and that credit could be added to his account. Now, there is one more way to do payment in advance that we should talk about, and that is through the use of something that we call subscriptions. So, subscriptions are renewed on a monthly basis, and perhaps if you have clients that you want to add to subscription, they might be a client that is subscribed to take 16 lesson hours from you every month. And you could add them onto a 16-hour package, or we have something close here, we have a 15-hour package. And what we've specified here, if we go into the edit screen, we'll see we've set our name for this 15-hour package, we've set the rate that we want to charge for it, and we've set the day of the month on which we want it to be sent out. Similarly, applies to here is talking about who it's relevant to. So if you want to say that this applies to an individual student, then a client who has 2 students or 2 children will receive 2 of these. If it is the case that they apply to the client, then a client will receive 1 of these subscription requests. So it's more common, I would say, that it would apply to the student, but you would make the final decision on that. So if we submit these, we can then start adding our clients to this. So let's say Jamie has used up his hours that he has bought previously, and now he wants to be added to a monthly subscription. So we've put Jamie's name in the client field on this subscription. We've selected his kid Archie to be the beneficiary of this, and we can add in any notes here if we want to make special exceptions or reminders to us that his subscription is in some way different or notable. So once we've done that, Jamie will be added to the list of client subscriptions, and on the 25th of the month, or whatever day you set, a subscription for $300 will be sent out to him and he will be asked to pay it. Similarly, all of those subscriptions, just like with the other credit requests, will be stored in raised credit requests, and you'll be able to see the status of them here. The last thing to touch on in this accounting section here is paying out to your tutors. So the way we pay out to our tutors on TutorCruncher is using something that we call draft payment orders. So payment orders are kind of like pay slips that you would send out to a tutor. They itemize all of the lessons that the tutor has taught in the period since payment orders were last sent out, and they act as a record of your payment as a tool for you to pay out to them in the future as well. So again, you would come here to regenerate. It is set to 6 months back. It will calculate any lessons that took place in that period that the tutor has not yet been paid for. And as I explained before, generate payment orders including items not associated with the paid invoice just means that if you leave this unticked, tutors will not be paid for anything that a client hasn't paid for. If you do tick this, they will be paid regardless of whether or not the client has paid for that lesson. So let's run a sample. Let's set for the last 6 months here and do a quick regeneration. So what this will do is it will just tally up all of the lessons that tutors have not yet been paid for, and it will again list them in draft. So you see I haven't had much activity on my account, so I just have a couple here, but they should be fine to illustrate what we're looking for. So you see Betty here has taught a couple of classes in the last little while that we haven't paid her out for yet. And that is programming patterns, algorithms, and data structures. We can see them listed there, their start and finish time, the length of them, any taxes associated. And again, we can view the PDF that's going to be sent out and confirm these as we want to and raise them. So once we have raised a payment order, it will of course pop into raise payment orders here, and again we have them listed with their statuses. When you first use TutorCruncher, you will have an option here to mark these as paid. You can select a payment method, most commonly bank transfer or cash, check, anything else. Similarly, if you are a client from the US or the UK, you can use a third-party integration that TutorCruncher runs with a company called Telaroo. Now, Telaroo allow automatic bank transfers out from TutorCruncher, all within this one screen. And what we will do once you've integrated with Telaroo, and we have documents on our help site about that, so if you're looking for more information, you can always type Telaroo into the search bar on our help site. But once you have a Telaroo integration set up, you will be given an option to pay out with Telaroo. You can queue up a number of these payment orders that you want to pay the tutor for, and then you will be asked to verify it with a bit of SMS verification to keep your account secure, and then those payments will be automatically sent to those tutors' bank accounts. The last thing to touch on, of course there's an awful lot we could talk about, but in terms of just hitting those really important features and the ones that are going to be used by everyone, are import and export functionality. So carrying on from our discussion about accounting, about how customers are billed and about how tutors are paid, you may want to access that accounting information and upload it to an accounting software such as Xero, QuickBooks, Sage. You'll see them listed here. TutorCruncher is compatible with those softwares, and we do have a strong compatibility with them. It isn't a direct integration though. So in order to get the information from TutorCruncher into your accounting software, what you will first need to do is go to System and Export, select Accounting Information, and specify what kind of information you're looking for. So are you looking for invoices, for payment orders, credit requests, and they can all either be detailed or basic. You can specify the date range that you're looking for information from, and what this will do is it will tally all of that information and we'll put it onto a CSV file that you can download, which you can then upload directly into whatever accounting software you're using. Now, especially important for those of you who are just setting up your accounts, we also have an import users function. So if you go here to System and Import users, you can upload a CSV or Excel file which numbers all of your users that you want to import. So if you're moving from previous system, even if it's just a system solely based on Excel files, you can also upload them here and copy all of that information across. TutorCruncher will create client, tutor, student profiles, anything like that for you. Once you've uploaded that information, you just have to format it in our little online formatter that's fairly easy to use. So I think that's pretty much everything that we were looking to cover. I hope you've enjoyed this bit of a run through. Of course, if you have any questions, we are always here to chat. Similarly, if it is easier for you to use our user guide, you can head to help.tutorcruncher.com and check it out there. So thank you very much, and looking forward to the next video where we can chat a little bit more about how to get the most out of your TutorCruncher system. All the best.